So I don't really know how to approach this video because it's deeply personal. I feel like a lot has happened in my life, and I'm where I'm at because I've worked my tail off. I'm not saying that I've never had any luck that's gone my way, but I've had plenty of bad luck that's gone my way also along the way. And I just feel like I just wanted to get this story out there in case it motivates anybody that wants to aspire to do something more with their lives, whether it be, business or go back to college. I feel like a big part of my calling is that what I want to do is inspire people to do more. And I can talk about that more later, but basically this video is about how I've been homeless multiple times. And so going from homeless to where I'm at now is kind of a crazy story to think about. And sometimes I've got some imposter syndrome when I jump in the Lamborghini, or I'm just, here in this house and with a wife and kid, and life's not perfect by any means again, but I've gone a long ways and I've got a long ways to go also. And I just want to share that with you guys. So if this brings any value to you, subscribe, but enjoy the video. So I'm sure it's going to take me a while to make this video because I don't have anything mapped out. I'm just going to kind of talk, and I'll probably record, throughout the day. And I do want to jump in the Lamborghini for this video because it just makes me feel like I've gone such a long way. I'm very proud of that car. I've had other supercars, but the Lamborghini for me, it's, when I was a kid, it's that typical story. Like when you're a kid, what car did you love? And what was on the poster or my screensaver, my computer, and it was always the Lamborghini for me. So I do want to jump in the Lamborghini. Can't do that right now, so I got to wait for the wife to get home because I've got a sick kiddo. But when she gets home, I'm going to jump in the car, take a little spin, and have a little chat, because that's what this channel is about, right? Car talks and money walks. All right, let's go, let's roll. The fact that I'm filming this on a cold day also kind of is reminiscent of what I used to do. So I guess I'll tell you a little bit about that. From a really young age, I made good money. It's not that I didn't make good money. It's just, it was easy come, easy go, easier go money when I was young. And so I was never good with my money. I was always good at making money, but it was always kind of gone faster than I could make it. And so with that, I found myself in some scenarios where I needed to move, and I just didn't have, savings, which I should have. I was making good money in sales, door-to-door sales, by the way. And I should have had, a savings. I made really good money for a young guy. I was in door-to-door sales, and I definitely should have been in a better scenario, but I wasn't. And I didn't make the best of choices. I was kind of partying a little bit too much. Let's change this to Corsa. That sound is, I love the sound. let's see. Let's find a good spot. Okay, I think I found a little bit better of a spot. I'm going to kill this engine. Just realized I did not bring my tripod. So, God, look how short this thing is. Wow. This thing is just so menacing. It's so mean. So mean. Okay. I'm going to get back in because I'm cold. Okay, so like I was saying, yeah, I wasn't homeless because I was, fired from a job, or because I had mental issues, or just, a turn of bad luck. Really, it was out of lack of planning and lack of saving and lack of spending properly. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't change my course of history for the world, because all of my mistakes in the past have taught me what I know now. So, I'm speaking about these things being very vulnerable here, but I'm just telling you my story on how I went from making poor decisions to better decisions. So first, let me tell you about the first time I was homeless. I moved because of a job. Now, the job was still doing what I was doing, which is door-to-door sales, and I made good money at it, but like I said, I wasn't saving, right? So I needed to move for a job. It was a good move for me. I was helping somebody, build a company, and it gave me a lot of experience in the meantime. But I didn't have a house, so I would, every 3 days or so, stay at a really cheap hotel, or every other day, and the rest of the time I would stay in the office of where I was working. They let me kind of stay there, and while I was trying to save up for a place, and it took me way longer than I should have to save up for a place, and I probably did that for months, for a few months. And it's embarrassing when you've got to stay on the office couch, just for the reason of you not having the foresight enough to save some money for a rainy day. But when you're in your young 20s and you're partying a ton, and you've got limousines, and you live like 2 days ahead, literally. They say paycheck to paycheck, but I got paid on a daily basis, so I lived a couple of days ahead. And when rent came up where I would go make rent that day. And so the money was coming so easy that I never really planned, and I would go be hungover if I was partying, and I'd say, I could take 2-3 days off. And so it was just a lot of poor decisions that when I moved, it put me in a really rough spot. So that rough spot meant that, I had to spend money on a hotel, which cost a lot more than an apartment, but every few days I could go to the hotel and get a really nice rest, nice sleep. And the other times, I had to join a gym and go shower. So that was the very first time that I was homeless. And that was, I'd say, the roughest time, just because it wasn't my choice. I really had to move for a job, and I was unprepared. But what it taught me is that I could do it, right? So I ended up being homeless later on in life on purpose while I was starting a company, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But see, here's the catch too of making poor decisions is, if I would have made proper decisions right from the beginning, life would have been cheaper. I wouldn't had to have gone to a hotel that was $120 a night, every other night, or whatever I was doing. Rent was cheaper than being homeless. And and it just amazes me. Life in general, when crap hit the fan, I would have to, go sink a bunch of money into a vehicle that I just didn't maintain because I just didn't care. And I thought, I just don't want to hassle with it. It cost me so much more money to deal with life this way than it did to get my crap together and just, hey, guess what? The oil change is due. Spend 3,000 miles. Go get an oil change. Fix the thing that's been broken for 2 months on, whatever. Take care of yourself and take care of your home and take care of your cars and take care of. Luckily, I didn't have a family, obviously. I was very young. And I wasn't ready for one. I was having fun and not caring about very much. But it's funny how that life ended up being way more expensive, and I had way crappier items in my life, crappier cars, crappier homes, or no home in this case, and I'm spending way more. Once I moved on from that, the job worked out really well. I ended up getting a promotion, and I moved out to another city, helping again this person build their business. All the while, my whole concept to help this person build their business, and I was very vocal about it. And I said, hey, look, I want to help you expand for the sole reason that I want to start my own company one day. So I struck up a deal with them, and so they, my job essentially was to move around, train sales reps, train management. I was management, but train somebody to replace me, rinse and repeat, right? And so that gave me the experience to go do that myself. So now I've done that. Now I've moved, I've successfully rinsed and repeated, and now it's time for me to go start my own thing. But by now, being homeless is old hat, right? And of course, I didn't have a whole hell of a lot saved up still hadn't learned my lesson, and I wanted to start a company. But I knew that if I executed on X, Y, and Z, I was going to get a little bit of a bonus, and I would use that to start my company. So when I moved to Denver, which is where I met my wife about a year later after moving to Denver, I had a work vehicle, some product, and enough gas money to get there, a hotel for the night, and $50 the next day. After that, my money was gone. I had product, I had ability that I knew I could sell, whatever I was doing door to door. And so that's how much faith I placed on myself. But again, if one hiccup happened, if I broke my leg or something I didn't think about, thank God nothing like that happened. I live so close to the wire all the time, and I'm very lucky that big things didn't happen. I mean, some bad things did happen along the way, but I was a little bit more established. And so I skated through some really, really hairy times by just not saving, not making good decisions. And again, I learned from them eventually. But it was about now that I'm in Denver, that I started learning. So now I made sure that I put the business first. I knew I was there for a reason. I was going to open a company. So I was in a hotel again, but I found a very cheap hotel. I'm talking, the hotel was actually nice, but we kind of made friends with the staff there. So they ended up like renting to us for like $35 a night in Denver, like right by Invesco Field. We would walk out of our hotel and go to tailgating for the football games for the Broncos. It was really cool. But it was, what was the name of the hotel? Hotel VQ, I think was the name. Now they're condos. So I've got a hotel. And by the way, everything worked out. I made it to Denver, obviously, the next day, went out, kicked butt in sales, and just kept going, right? Kept rolling my money into product, kept having money, not a problem. I had, money to live. But my goal now was to build a company, because I saw what it did for this other person, and I saw the wealth that it created. So I needed a warehouse first and foremost. I didn't want to waste any time getting an apartment, renting an apartment, and spending a bunch of money, when I knew that if I did that, then I would also have to get a warehouse. And I also knew that I can, figure it out. I can get a gym membership. I can be quote unquote homeless without being gross. Right. So my very first thing was to get a warehouse. I did that. I procured a warehouse, a lease on a warehouse, and I started building my company, right? I started buying more vehicles, started building my sales team. And it took me probably 6 months before I felt comfortable enough to go out and have another lease, like an apartment lease, as well as a lease on the warehouse, because, warehouse space is not cheap. So what I did in the interim, what I did for those 6 months is we bought a cot. I had a buddy with me helping me start this whole thing, but we bought a cot, and we would sleep on the cot at night. There was an office in the warehouse, so we'd sleep on the cot at night. All our clothes and stuff would be above the office. We had a little ladder that we could climb. Get up in the morning, go to the gym, work out, and brush our teeth, shower, all that stuff there. Get back to the warehouse for hiring and training. Throw all our crap on top of the office so nobody would see it, and just operated the business. I mean, I was so laser focused by this point that now I'm making the right decisions, right? Because now I'm bankrolling, and every time I get X amount of money, I'm buying a new vehicle, and that's my sole purpose right now. And it was a good year of doing that. So 6 months of no home, another 6 months of having a home, and still doing the same thing with the company. But now I've got an apartment. Now I've got, this company that's starting to grow, starting to, make way a little bit. And after about a year, that's when things really started to pop off for me. I realized that I didn't need such an expensive warehouse. So the very first thing I did as soon as my lease was over, I got a really good short-term lease. It was about a year. I moved to a really small office space, not even a warehouse, to where we could park our company vehicles in the parking lot and bring the product in at night and lock it up and stuff. But there was, instead of having, big meetings in the warehouse, there was a communal office room for meetings and hiring that I could do. This is when things really started to change for me, because I downsized my bills, and it just poured fuel on the fire, and I could buy more vehicles, which meant I could hire more people. And at this point, I just met my now wife. And so thank God she never would have gave me another thought if I was homeless. But, thank God things were starting to pop off, and I was starting to do all right for myself. And this was the whole plan, right? By the way, for any of you young kids asking, how do you get somewhere? Don't ever underestimate the power of marriage, the power of 2 incomes, the power of goals. I'm not saying get married just for money, but find somebody that has the same plans and the same values as you, and get married. I mean, don't do it too young. Don't be immature. I definitely waited until I was, in my 30s. But again, that's another thing that poured fuel on the fire for me, is finding somebody that had the same values and the same goals as I did. Because now my company's starting to pop off. Now I don't need to get my own place. She doesn't need her own place. We can move in together, and our bills get cut in half. And we had the same values. So it was all about saving money and growing businesses, and then eventually turned into buying businesses, which is what I do now. I acquire businesses. It's crazy to think about, right? I'll go buy a $5 million company, multiple of them, and I was homeless. I literally was homeless. One not really by choice, and another one by choice, but all because I didn't really have good habits. And so, now that I'm with somebody, it's not how I was raised, so I knew better. But now that I'm with somebody, I'm putting my best foot forward. I'm saving. I've got a bankroll now. I'm not spending frivolously, right? We're eating at home. I'm not going out every night. I don't have the limos anymore. I sold those. And by the way, the limos, they weren't generating revenue. We had a full-time driver. We would party, me and my buddies, and it was just a money pit. Again, bad decisions. But now I'm realizing that this isn't what I want my whole life. I want a family. I want to have a kid. And God blessed us with a kid. We've got a baby girl now. She's not a baby anymore. She's almost 5. But, I couldn't be happier. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way. But the biggest lesson I think I would take away from this whole thing, biggest lesson, I want to say don't waste a charmed life, because I definitely had a charmed life and I wasted it. But on the same token, I don't think I would be where I am now. For example, like, how can you really regret anything, right? Because if I didn't do those things then, would I need to do them now? Would I need to get that out of my system now? And would my life come crumbling down now? And there's nothing guaranteed. I'm not saying that it won't come crumbling down 10 years from now or 5 years from now or tomorrow. Something catastrophic can happen. But I don't know that I wouldn't I would do it any differently. I guess if I had to give advice to anybody, I would just say, figure out what your goals are in life and make the sacrifices that other people wouldn't be willing to make in order to get there. I know a lot of people that if they made six figures, they wouldn't decidedly go and be homeless. When we started making acquisitions, we made really good money and we had a big mansion with a pool. But before we made our first business acquisition, we needed every cent of capital, every dime that we had saved up in our 401k and our equity in our home. We sold it all and we moved into a 1-bedroom apartment ghetto in Houston before we made our first acquisition. So it was like a third choice of making sure that we put our goals first. And that's why it's so important to get with somebody that has got those same goals as you, because I can't imagine going through that with anybody else who didn't have the same vision as me and didn't have that, we need to make an acquisition, buy an existing business, buy existing cash flow, right? That's my whole mantra. And so I don't know that I could have done it with anybody else. So I attribute as much to where I am today with my hard work as I do my wife's hard work and putting up with me over the past decade. So yeah, I'd say I don't know that I would do anything different as far as lessons. I learned a lot of little lessons of how not to be a D-bag along the way. But I would just say figure out what your priorities are. And any decision that you make in life is going to do one of two things, right? If this is your goal over here, any decision that you make in life is either going to head you in that direction towards your goal, or it's going to head you in the other direction. I mean, there is no neutral move here, right? Every single thing you do during the day is either going to head you towards that direction or head you away. And for me, I learned this in my sales. Look, if I go out the night before and have too many drinks, it's going to head me away from my goals. First of all, get some goals, right? If you don't have any goals, you're a pinball getting knocked around in life. And when the wind blows this way, you get blown that way. And when the pinball machine hits you this way, you get knocked that way. But if you've got a goal, life is still going to blow you around and hit you. But now you can get back on track and go towards that direction that you were going after you got hit, right? So you're going to get somewhere. You got to have a goal to do that. But like I said, figure out what you want to do and then realize every single decision that you make during the day, whether it be from eating super spicy food that makes you run to the bathroom and take away sales time, little decisions like that can change your day every day. Coming up with excuses as to why I can't go out and kick butt today, or just being lazy, throughout the day. Every single decision that you make is either going to take you towards that little goal that you want to be over here or take you away from it. And so that's the only advice that I'd say. But I wanted to get that out there and tell you my story about some of the poor decisions I made and some of the good decisions I'm making today. And I'm still learning. There's still a lot to grow. I'm at a spot. I'm 40 years old. I'm nowhere near being done working. I could retire right now, but I'm not going to. And I'm still hungry. I'm hungry for knowledge. I'm hungry for growth. And if you guys share that same hunger, I think you should subscribe. That was a tongue twister. If you share that same hunger, I think you should subscribe. Try saying that fast. But yeah, guys, that's my story. I want to put more content about acquiring businesses because I'm passionate about it. It's done the world for me. So if you've got any interest in it, please just know that it's not as difficult as you might think. You got to start somewhere, and it's not as crazy as you might think. I would say buy a business before you even buy a house. If you can buy a business and get 200% return on your money, on your down payment, I don't know, anything else that can do that is as safe as buying a business that's been around for maybe 15, 20 years. And then you come in and you just work with the previous owner to try to make sure that that investment stays there, because I'm a firm believer in what one person can do, another person can copy. One of my mantras, again, is the second mouse gets the cheese, right? I'm not out there trying to create new things and pour a bunch of money into getting patents on things and be an inventor. Look, people have figured it out already. People know how to make money. There are businesses out there that are functional and are stable. And so it's so easy to go in there, put a down payment down, which is now it's like 10%, and just get crazy return on your investment. And if you want to know more about that, put a comment down below and I can talk about that. I can even text in the comments about return on investments and a business acquisitions and what I recommend doing for that. But that's my story, guys. So now I'm going to try not to cuss, but I'm going to start my freaking Lamborghini and go home to my family and hang out and just enjoy life. And I'm going to keep that grind going. I'm going to always be looking. I just made a business acquisition in December. And I'm looking for 1 or 2 more right now because we moved to Denver. We moved back to Denver. We were on the East Coast for quite a while, but we moved back to Denver in August. Sold all of our businesses on the East Coast, and so now I'm on the hunt. Right, I'm hungry and I'm ready to go. So come along on the ride. Here we go.